Couldn't hear him. We used to be very much fun for up on the flat street.
And now the end is near, so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of this I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, saw it through without exemption. I climbed each charted course, each careful step on the byway. Much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when it was found, I ate it up.
Bill's last flight. Well, that doesn't happen every day. What a spectacular way to begin this afternoon. I'm fearful I might in fact be permanently a couple of inches shorter after that first pass. Welcome, Bill. That's quite the fuss for you. Bill arrived here a bit earlier than I think he wanted to, and I think he was doing his best to avoid being here altogether. But he's here today in an incredibly special, important place in his life, and how epic to have all of you here wrapped around him and his family. Earlier, when I saw him at the hangar doors there, with all of you around him, I thought of him as a man who was described to me as far from pretentious. And I fancied he was quietly observing this setting, with his mechanic's eye and his mechanic's ear. And I felt him enjoying the gathering of people, and then the arrival of those magnificent machines, with those beautiful purring engines. Welcome to Bill's family. Everyone's hearts are with you today. Welcome to you all. Thank you for your attendance. Welcome to the people joining us via live stream Amidst friends, colleagues and acquaintances joining us online today, we recognise cousins in Australia and Scotland, and we offer an especially warm welcome to Auntie Margaret. Auntie Margaret's going to be listening to a recording of today's proceedings in the coming days. Earlier, as I was meeting people who arrived, I accepted a handful of apologies from folk who wish they could be here but are unable to be. Amidst them, a piloting couple. I've got Tim and Carmen MacArthur, and I'm just going to put on my lamp up here so I can actually see in the murk. And also Peter Johnson. Those folks send their love. A word of advice in this modern age, and given that we're live streaming today, while a funeral might seem like an odd place for a date, I'd like to suggest that in the odd chance the camera does catch you and you are sitting next to someone that you shouldn't be, it might be a good time to move. It's probably murky enough in here that you're going to get away with it today. We won't be hearing from Coldplay today, but we are going to be treated to some ABBA later in the piece. Some structure and housekeeping. Your phones. If you haven't already attended to that, could you maybe just give them a wee tap and turn them off? I don't think flight mode really fits in today. I think it's time to turn them off for an hour or so and tune in. Today we're going to hear of Bill's life through a short eulogy with tribute from members of his family and some special friends. At the conclusion of the service, you are all invited and encouraged to continue to the Wairīpa Cemetery, which you'll know as being to the west of Balclutha, off the Clinton Highway. It's there that a last lift will occur and allow a final landing for Bill's body to rest. Bill will travel to the cemetery on the deck of the Scania truck that he used to drive. Jono has brought that down from Makihi, especially for today. Morris, Bill's brother, will be driving the truck, and Des and Jono are going to be riding shotgun in the cab. If you're uncertain of the way to the cemetery, it's a case of following the large blue truck and the line of cars behind it. On the pronunciation of Scania, I want to thank Bridget down there, who understands the importance of pronunciation. I'm told that amidst all of the modes of travel and adventure that Bill enjoyed, he also used to enjoy jet boating down to Kaitangata with Morris. And it's with that thought that I think today of earth, sky and water, and those elements that we are going to touch. Following the burial, please return to the aerodrome for the opportunity to remember Bill with further stories and a chance to share refreshments. It's at that stage too, if you needed any other incentive, that we're going to see something quite special happen. You may be aware, you may not be, but I'm going to tell you, Bill and Jono shared a pact, a pretty special commitment to one another. The deal being, whoever left first, the other was responsible for organising a toast with some water of life. And in this case, I understand that there's going to be some Jameson's whiskey distributed amongst the gathering, and a toast will be raised. I'm Shane, a celebrant, and it's my honour today to have been asked to lead the service for Bill, and it's been an absolute delight to have shared some phone calls with his family and to learn more about his story. That is today's hard. But something that was impressed upon me really early on was Bill's enthusiasm for his life and his determination and his positivity. I figure my flight path here started last Tuesday. It was while driving a long black car, as I do occasionally, along the pig road, that I was suddenly struck by the sight of a small, low-flying aircraft banking around a rough hill at low altitude, at what seemed pretty much like eye level, close to what we just experienced. I saw the plane pop back briefly into sight through a saddle, and I looked for it again, but it was gone. I didn't see that as a signal at the time, but it's always a good idea to have your head up and your eyes open. I'll do my best to run the cutter today, setting the scene for all of you to share your memories of Bill in some way. That is a shared history, and we're prepared to celebrate his life. William Anthony O'Connor was born in Waimate in 1964 to very loving parents, Irene and Brian. He enjoyed a very stable childhood, the second of six, as I understand, starting school at Waiho Downs. The family then moved to Timaru when he was 5, but Bill never really took to city living. His heart and love was the country, and he spent many happy holidays at his granddad and grandma's, William and Margaret O'Connor. These folk were second generation Irish stock. They farmed at Gray's Corner, and on the same farm was Uncle Steve and in fact Auntie Margaret, who we've already introduced. Bill loved working on this farm. Bill was very close to his Auntie Margaret, and although she cannot physically be here today, they, very recently, shared a special afternoon together. They shared a special bond. Bill was the first O'Connor she had met besides her husband Steve, and there's a bit of a lovely family legend that Bill bowled up to her at age 9 and said, "Can I come and stay?" We know how useful he was helping on the farm, even at a young age. He lived on the farm for a while as a young adult while continuing that work. Something incredibly special, in addition to everything else that will be occurring today, Simon from family has brought some soil from Gray's Corner, and at the last that soil will be held and will be scattered and released down onto Bill's casket. As a child, when not on the farm, he was building dobbins and go-karts with some advice from his Uncle Con, whom he had huge respect for. It is no surprise his many jobs involved mechanics, machinery, and farming. He played drums in a band alongside Paddy and Bernie. This was in his late teens and continued on into his 20s. I understand there were many good times. He had so many friends, and many more since those teenage years. His best high school mate, Leo, later became his brother-in-law, and it was Leo who, in the last year or so, it was such a great help, making it easier for Bill to stay and continue living at home. Bill was an incredibly proud father to Toby and Jack, and he showed proud tears and steady, consistent love to them. Teaching Jack the drums early on, he was so proud when Jack continued to self-teach, and then his drumming skills surpassed his father's. Teaching driving and motorbike riding and taking Jack flying, adamant that they were staying in the house together to the end, driving them to school each day. Toby, Bill was so proud of you and your work ethic and your recent move to university this year to follow your dream of becoming an oncologist. Bridget helped me with these words and these descriptions of Bill's traits and his core values. And I couldn't help but notice the frequency of the word proud there. And it made me think of how we might compare and balance hours of pride with hours of flight, both essential and natural characters for Bill. Bill enjoyed regular trips with the kids to see cousins in Timaru. He had a real emphasis on family and enjoyed all the cousins being together. He really loved his own cousins and had many happy times with them. Just recently, his North Island cousins came to see him, and he loved the cousins' booze cruise in the van. He enjoyed camping trips with the kids and their cousins to Lake Benmore, most recently this January past. He also enjoyed trips to Manapori and Mount Cook to see Morris and the kids. Bill worked hard. We'll hear more about his work adventures later, but he loved fun and laughter. He had a great sense of humour, sometimes with a very black Irish twist. He was very proud of his Southern Irish ancestry and in typical Irish form, loved a few beers with yarn and good music. So many good times with so many good friends. In 2024, with his great mate Des, he went to the Oshkosh Air Show in Wisconsin, America, and he absolutely loved it. Des and Bill weren't alone at that gathering. For those of you not aware of it, it's one of the larger air shows in the world, if not the largest air show. Some 686,000 people attending across a number of days. As I understand, there were close to 10,000 aircraft that arrived and were involved with the event. Amidst it, I learned there were P-51 Mustang flights on offer. I'm wondering if Bill managed to get up and have a look around from one of those birds. I want to thank Morris, Des, Bridget, Tricia, Claire and Jared for the brilliant detailed recollections that you shared with me over the past couple of days. Before we have our first speaker, there's just a handful of acknowledgements that I think we need to make. Amidst them, some names already mentioned. Jono, who organised the Scania to be here today. Israel, who has spent time in recent days, and he told me even barely over a week ago, he spent time with Bill, giving the Whitman there a wee bit of a polish up. John Elliott, who has organised for the PNX to be brought down today, all the way from Tikawiti. Family would like to acknowledge the support and dedicated care provided by the occupational therapists and physiotherapists that helped Bill to remain where he most wanted to be, in his home. But I think probably the most important acknowledgement to make is in fact to Bill. And that's because today we recognise his determination, his practical capability and his dedication across 3 years of adversity. He calmly defied his challenges and he refused to let his illness define him. Just a few short days ago, really, Bill just quietly announced to Des, "I'm fucked, Des." And that's the kind of thing that only the closest friends can really share and manage and expect returning support from. Des has been a loyal and steadfast friend, an employer, a boss, a colleague, who first met Bill in 1999 in Christchurch as they pursued their commercial tickets And it was there in the back row of class, like naughty boys, that they first huddled up together. And it's now that I'd like to invite Des to come forward and to offer his own tribute.
Better get this stuff going. Thank you very much for the introduction, Champ. Really is my privilege to be here. Say a few words about my best mate Bill. Bill and I met in 1999, Canterbury Aero Club. We were both there to get our commercial pilot exams out of the road. We were both sitting at the back of the room, soon engaged in a conversation every day about trucks, machinery, farming, aeroplanes, and drinking beer. We both wanted to be top racing pilots, and we looked at the Wings magazines and the Ag Aviation section, all about Flexes and Crescos, just dreamt about how we could get there to fly them one day. Shortly after finishing our commercial pilots licences, Bill headed for Fielden to join his brother Morris, flying tourists to Milford Sound. For myself to get flying, I bought a top racing business, and Bill and I kept in close contact. And after 18 months, I was snowed under with so much work, I asked Bill if he wanted to come fly with me. Of course, he jumped at the opportunity. He smashed out his 80-hour egg rating in 2 weeks, without a word of a lie. We had a great time working together, until tragedy struck in December 2002, when Bill crashed the plane. But by nothing short of a miracle, and his stoic, determined attitude, he made a full recovery and went back to flying for Phoenix Aviation. After some time, he went out as an owner-operator purchasing his Lynn aircraft and went spray contracting for Mainland Minerals. Unfortunately, his Lynn got the better of him, wrote that off, so he sold the rest of the gear to Jeff McMillan, who I recall looked after him very well. He was then back to Phoenix, where Bill more or less ran his own business with someone else's gear. He had such dedication to his clients, he would often tell me he lay in bed at night working out the most efficient way to get through his work and keep all his clients happy. Phoenix Aviation bought PNX, and Bill fell in love with it. It was to be his aircraft, to see out his top racing career, and it's wonderful generosity of balance to have brought this plane down on the North Island for this occasion, and I'd like to personally thank John Allen and Keith Bear for that. Anyway, Super Air bought out Phoenix Aviation, and 3 years later they sold to Otago Airscreen. And Bill was back working for me. He'd recently been diagnosed with motor neuron disease. I've never met a man so relaxed and philosophical about something so terrible. I was far more upset about it than he seemed to be. It was then my privilege to work with Bill, cruising around Otago and Southland, picking up and dropping off loaders all over the province, and then stopping at the pub every time on the way home. And if there wasn't one, we'd grab a box of beer and have that on the way home. Such a positive man who never let his equipment get to him. He always said he'd made good use of the time left. We had a trip of a lifetime to the Oshkosh Air Show in the US. We had a great group of people, and Bill kept them entertained in the evening. Bill was a very proud dad of his 2 children, Toby and Jack. They both have a stoic determination of their dad. Bill will be watching over them as their lives develop. I'm going to miss you, Bill. You lit the big hole in lots of people's lives. I'm just so pleased you went with your dignity intact, on your own terms and in your own home. Rest in peace.
Well, Des, thank you. Our family wished for me to spend just a little time talking about Bill's work history. 41. There you go. 41. 41 jobs. Now the family are adamant that all of these jobs are mentioned because there are a number of people here who are connected to him through these jobs, and also because he was such a hard worker, and that is where he met so many of his friends and lived such an important part of his life. We're also going to mention these jobs because Bill and Morris have had a long-running competition about who has the most jobs. Bill currently sitting on 41, Morris on 42. So Morris may have just edged ahead and is looking like a strong candidate to win the competition. Morris, we could argue that it's time to cease your grandstanding and simply retire. I suspect Bill will be pumping you for the century, however, so go get it. Impressively, Morris remembers the larger percentage of these jobs, admitting only to having forgotten just a few, which he's found a bit frustrating. But let's get going. A milk run through school years, whilst he shared a room with 3 brothers, his 2 younger brothers hearing his hideously loud alarm very early each morning. Yes, Bill's work ethic was strong, even at 14. 1981, he served an apprenticeship as a mechanic with the Timaru Council. On from here, he worked on a farm with Dave Martin, and then continued his understanding of farm and agricultural equipment, working on tractors at Ford Motors in Timaru, followed by Fiat at Washington. Spreading his wings a wee bit at that stage even, on to truck driving with Ollie Turner in Aero. Truly unfolding those wings, he found his way over the ditch, where in Esperance he continued to drive tractors, a somewhat different setting, but that was with a gent, Chris. Also in Australia, in Kalgoorlie, which is where he met John O, and worked with Leo and Morris, driving loaders in Galconda. He also worked as a plant operator, and I understand Paddy was there too. So Bill, Morris, Leo and Paddy all ended up in Kalgoorlie. It was there after some time that they had learnt that they hailed from South Canterbury, and in fact that they were third cousins. In Australia, in Cambodia, Bill worked for Little's Trucking. Also in Australia, Marley's Transport with stock trucks and other trucks all around Western Australia. As a relaxing interlude in Western Australia, Bill and Morris took a couple of Suzuki motorbikes from Perth to Sydney, moving across the Nullarbor. Back to New Zealand, onto the Clyde Dam job, operating a scraper with Jono, and with a connection there with Bill Butson. Diggers with Fletchers, and then a further 3,000 hours on a digger connected with Doug Hood across locations Australia and New Zealand, Broken Hill, Nelson, Tokoroa and Oamaru. On to Makihi Fries, driving a chip truck for Stephen Bleeker, which is I think where the Scania arrives, and also silage, quite a different project from chips, around the Waimate and Makihi area. I was there, then he bought his own loader and continued contracting around the region. But pivotally, he sold that to follow his passion for flying. In 2000, he joined Air Fiordland, based out of Queenstown. And then at the other end of the island, as I understand it, he flew a skydiving plane up in Motueka. It was in 2001, clearly following that connection with Des and those qualifications, that he sank into the top dressing. An interlude that Des referred to with the downed plane, which he survived and was able to go on and have his 2 wonderful children. Working life continued with diverse works in Wanaka, with the chap known as Hound, a good friend driving diggers. Then worked for the firm Young's. Ground spreading, this time with a truck. And then a slight departure from the theme, he bought a takeaway chicken shop in Wanaka with Jeff Wilson, which I understand he persisted with for 6 months before realising that I think that he needed to get back into the outdoors and back into the machines. He flew a parachute plane, a Cresco, I understand, out of Queenstown, and then went on to work with Phoenix Aviation out of Gore. He bought his own aircraft, a Zlin, which was contracted to Mainland Minerals, which unfortunately was connected with an incident up behind Roxburgh, which brought that project to a halt. And then back to top dressing stint in a Fat Man aircraft. This was followed by his work with Super Air, during which he operated a wee sideline working for Des, driving Scania and Mercedes trucks and driving a salt spreader. It was in more recent years that he picked up a couple of assignments with the Australian-based Super Air and had some jobs near Bathurst, I understand, a couple of short stints during the last 5 years. Here in Bathurst got me wondering if he'd ever dusted the Conrod Strait at Mount Panorama. More recently, of course, in concert with Des, he was working with top dressing with the Otago Air spread, and continued his work for Des and with Des right through until 4 days before his death. The keen-eyed accountants amidst you might have noticed that there's about 10 jobs missing from the 41 that I stated. For your information, there's going to be a quiz later where the 10 most creative occupational suggestions will be considered, and if worthy will be added to the death certificate particulars. It's now in the heart of our service that we're going to hear from family, and it's Bill's brother Morris who is going to lead those tributes. Morris.
G'day everybody, I'm Morris, Bill's brother. It was an absolute privilege to have Bill as a brother. He was such a positive influence on all of our lives. One of the stories that I've got that sort of shows his positivity is after he crashed Des' plane, he was in intensive care in hospital, unconscious, and when he woke up, he said, "What happened?" He said, "You crashed your plane." He said, "What's wrong with me?" He said, "Well, I've got a couple of broken ribs, a broken arm, the top jaw is separated from your face, you've got a fractured cheekbone." And he said, "Could be worse, could have sore balls." Then he went back to sleep for a while, and that's just one example of just, he always had that positive no matter what. But, there's so many stories, but that'll be for later on when we come back to the cemetery with a few beers. But as Jed said, it's a big hole.
Hi everyone, I'm Toby and Bill is my dad. I wish you could be here today to see just how many people love and respect him and to see that awesome display and stuff. I think most people that have made it here today only ever saw the resilient, humorous, and maybe slightly southern side of Dad's character. But he wasn't only that. There are no words to describe how loving and comforting he always was as a father, an uncle, a brother, and a cousin. He never let me forget that I was capable and so supportive in everything I've done. When I was little, I was absolutely terrified of spiders. To fix that, he made up what must have been hours of bedtime stories about a nice family of spiders that lived under our house. And I think that sums up how gentle and kind he was as a father. Those stories definitely stopped the real phobia from ever happening, but sometimes when I see a more gnarly looking one, I wish he could still just come scoop it up and chuck it out the window. Dad was always the first person I went to for advice. Even when there wasn't a solution, his relentless positivity always helped me see things in another perspective. I struggle to grasp just how many milestones in life I have ahead to get through without him here to talk to. I will always do my best to make the most of the energy I had, because even when Dad had none to give, he found a way to keep on doing the things he loved. Dad, I will miss you forever. If I never last good night, I love you on the phone was goodbye to you forever, I probably would have never hung up. I will miss your laughter, your smile, and every hug I gave you, even when you couldn't really hug me back. My time with you has been cut short, but I don't think any amount of time with someone I love as much as you would ever have been enough. You were a bright light to so many people, and I'm grateful for every second of the 18 years I got with my dad.
How lucky are we to have had Bill as our big brother and your little brother Trisha, and as your father, Toby and Jack, and our brother-in-law, uncle, nephew, cousin and friend. We are all so proud of him. He was a much-loved son of Irene and Brian. He would have challenged them at times with his spirit. He paved the way, broke down boundaries and made a pretty easy ride for the rest of us. Strong, determined, stubborn, we'd stop short of saying belligerent, loyal and protective. We knew with Bill in our corner, he'd have our back, and we all have memories of the protective big brother coming out when needed and putting someone in their place if required. He had a strong sense of justice and standing up for what is right. One of the most genuine, caring men you'd ever meet. Thanks for the baby's toast, Patrick. Intelligent, logical, practical, problem solver, maths brain. Often during a discussion, Bill would be the calculator. Wise would all ask Bill a multitude of questions, problems and challenges, and he would calmly discuss with us and give some sound advice. We've all called him to help with our cars over the years, and a rescue from so many predicaments. A phone call and he'd be there, driving ours in some stories. How many cars did he look at for us and our friends, pre-purchase inspections, and how frustrating for him with some of our woefully limited budgets. And his was a particularly limited budget of $300. Resilient, no problem was going to hold Bill down for long, and he'd had his share of trials over the years, but his relentless positivity always shone through. His positivity was infectious, and we always came away from being with Bill feeling uplifted. Never once would he be a victim or play the woe is me card, and he had plenty of reason to play that card in the last few years, but not once did he complain or moan. His illness didn't define him, but it certainly highlighted even more the strength of character of the man. Bill had a great sense of humour and he loved a laugh, and when Bill was around it was going to be a good time. He had such a great laugh. So many great sessions as a family with friends, with a few beers, the odd Baileys, yarns, healthy debates. Bill and I had a few. He liked to wind me up and take the piss. He told his friend, If ever there was a lull in the conversation, he'd say, "What about those school teachers? They get it pretty easy, eh?" And sit back and watch the entertainment. Many a good session with music, singing together with enthusiasm, with family and friends. Bill loved his many friends, and the family want to thank them for all you've done for Bill. It's been overwhelming. All his friends at the Aero Club, Israel getting his plane ready, and our entertainment the last few mornings with some meetups. Des, you're one of life's gems. We can't thank you enough. Bill was very musical. He taught me the drums when I was little. He played the cornet in the Timaru brass band as a school child, but it didn't last long. We suspect the tight structure wasn't quite the right fit for Bill. Piano lessons with the nuns didn't last long either. We can't imagine why. A better fit for Bill's musical outlet was playing drums in the band with Paddy and Bernie. I absolutely loved when he'd bring out the mouth organ, usually near the end of the night, and Maddie could play it well. But accordion, piano, singing harmony, some very recent sessions with his nieces and nephews. Jared said you could basically give Bill any instrument and he'd play it. The soft, sensitive, caring side of Bill was always there as a big brother and never more evident than when he had his own children. What an incredibly proud father he was to Toby and Jack. I've seen so many proud parent tears from Bill. He'd tell me how smart Toby was and how it would amaze him how he could blitz it at school, how incredible it was that he could put his own computer together, how proud that Toby was at uni. He'd tell me proudly after a few tips from him that Jack went on to teach himself drums and self-taught the guitar, and he genuinely was rapt that he was better than Bill. He certainly had no ego. He'd show me photos of Jack driving the manual Hilux at 4 years old and tell me that when Bill went to help him with the gears, Jack smacked his hand away and said, "I can do it, Dad." The apple doesn't fall far. He proudly sent me a video from the cockpit while Jack was flying. He loved you both so much and was so excited about you charging ahead into life. We are all so incredibly grateful to have you in our family, Toby and Jack, and to see both of your strength of character and humour. Morris once told Bill, "Jack is so like you at that age, Bill, except better because he's not quite so surly." Bill was a deeply loved nephew, and his aunties and uncles had huge respect for him. His auntie Margaret wishes she was here. Bill was so interested in all his nieces and nephews and was a really loved and hugely respected uncle. I've seen quite a few proud uncle tears over the years too. He very recently was giving advice to my own children. Write down your goals, commit them to paper. But with wise advice also came a lot of fun and laughter and great humour with them. He loved Toby and Jack's friends coming around, heading off motorbiking and playing music and hanging out. The family want to really thank them and their families for their support of Toby and Jack. It's a real comfort to us knowing that you're there for them. And Betty and Larry, his loyal dogs who brought him endless entertainment. Betty is the least likely dog you'd expect Bill to have, a little handbag dog, but Betty chose Bill and was never far from his leg, always sitting on his knee, and he was just so gentle with that wee dog. They were with him right to the end. What an enormous hole the patriarch of our family is going to leave. Such a solid, steady rock in our lives. Our lives are richer for having you in it, Bill, and I'm a better person for your influence in my life.
I think Bill would like to say this, I'm speaking as Bill. Although my life here has come to an end, and you have come to say your goodbyes, I know that you're all grieving, and the pain in your hearts is real, but you cannot grieve forever. I wouldn't want you to. I would hope that you can carry on the way that you always do. Continue those traditions, no
matter how small. Go on with your life. Don't worry about the falls. Talk about the good times, the days we spent together, and the happiness that we shared. Remember the different ways that I love all of you, and remember always that I care. Please give strength to each other, dear family and friends. Enjoy life and carry on. For as long as I'm in your thoughts, you know that I'm never gone.
Tricia, what a lovely way to conclude the family tribute. Well done. Well done, everyone. It's now that we're going to hear from some gentlemen from the Aero Club. And Israel is going to lead, and possibly with a wingman or three.
Hello all, I'm Israel Winning. Firstly, Bill's friend and current president of the South Otago Aero Club. I don't know where to start, Bill. I have mixed emotions with your passing. I'm happy you're free once again. On the other hand, there are so many things left unfinished. I've known and spent quite a bit of time with Bill over the last 10 years. We've talked about many things, flown to many places together. And in the last year, chased each other around the sky. That is one of the things unfinished. Being able to catch me, Bill, next time. Bill's knowledge was immense. If you were going somewhere or trying to get home, you could ring him. He'd always have good advice. He would freely pass on his learnings and experience to anyone that asked, and sometimes those that didn't. When he wasn't out working, I'd often be around the Aero Club. He would often be around the Aero Club. Most Saturday and Sunday mornings, I'd get to the hangar first. And a short time later, the truck or the Jag would slowly poke its nose past my hangar door. We would solve the problems of the world, or better still, go flying. One morning we went out in the RV, looping and rolling our way around the sky, Bill flying of course. The smile on his face said it all. Then it was my turn, he said. As you roll upside down, check forward, he said. Now, in an RV, gently released back pressure would have been the answer, appropriate. As when we went negative G, the engine gasped for fuel, I looked across at Bill, seeing his cell phone departing his pocket, and him trying to catch it, laughing, of course. I know for sure Bill didn't think it was his time was up just yet, as had been mentioned, a few things or two that needed to be conquered. As things got a bit harder, we would sit in front of the hangar in the sun talking. He said to me not long ago, it is only when I'm flying I have my freedom back. I can go and move freely. That was it. Marie, my wife, was watching him on a morning flight. We were flying around the side of the Takatimus. Bill was right in amongst it, following every contour. And she said to me, look at Bill. He's like a bird. Fly free, my friend, you will be missed.
Hello, my name's Stephen Beck and I'm Bill's friend, neighbour. I met Bill in 2011 when I was learning to fly. Over the time we became mates, usually catching up over a beer or three or more sometimes. He was always looking out for new pilots, giving pointers on landing and general flying. Safety was paramount to Bill, and he made sure that when someone went out for a fly or something that he saw wasn't quite right, he would jump in with them and give them a few pointers. Just quite subtly, they probably didn't even know what's happening. After Bill and his family lost their house to fire in Vancouver, he moved out to a property right beside ours, which he rented for the start, and then eventually we bought. Our friendship grew as we would regularly catch up on the road, seeing what each other had been doing, and just general chit-chat. Then I had a farm land on both sides of Bill's house, and I'd be getting home late in the afternoon on the motorbike. Next thing, just past Bill's place, the phone would go, text in my pocket. Stop, have a look at it. Bill would say, beer's cold. So U-turn, back to Bill's for a while, talking about everything and anything, and then away home. Brought a plane a few years ago in the North Island. Bill said, "You've got this plane, you want to give me a hand to get it back?" "Yep, no problem. When are we going to do it?" This was about cycling every hour, a few cancellations and bits and pieces, and it was never a problem. Bill, "No, next week we'll do." "No, that didn't happen the week after." Bill was always, willing and able. So we flew that back, stopped at Waipapa Rail. Bill got his 30-minute rating, and then we headed home, getting across Cook Strait, 1,000 feet, the wind was blowing, looking at each other, but both of us not saying anything. Eventually we got back home. The plane went for a service. So they found the host lamp was only half on the radiator. A couple of days later, Bill and I just looked at each other about it, because I know Bill didn't like flying over water. We thought, what could it have been? Yeah, Bill was, he just had that aura about him that nothing was a problem. He just made you feel relaxed. There's so many stories we can talk about later, but just lots of little things. He was an all-round great bugger, always positive, no matter what the situation. Nothing was a problem, as I said. The answer was always yes. You asked him about doing something. You come out tail or something like that, and get it halfway up. "Yep, I'll be there, no problem." I talked to Bill on the side of the road last Monday. He was in his beloved Jag. He was telling me about Israel and fixing up his plane and getting that oil cooler back in. I said to Bill, last thing I said to Bill, "I'll see you later." You know what Bill said to me? His positive attitude, "I'll see you soon." That was his hallmark, the last passing every time he talked to him, "I'll see you soon." We'll miss you, Bill. We will. Thanks.
Did you see those Waka Waka, those fantails arriving for their fly past 5 minutes earlier than we'd scheduled? But there they were, coming to just swoop around those two friends. "Look at Bill, he's like a bird." That's what Israel's wife said. And Bill himself said that it was only when he was flying that he had his freedom in those recent years. Thank you, Israel. Thank you, Spike. I'd like to mention just one other apology that came in lately. Linda Wilson passes on her regards and regrets that she can't attend today. There are, 200-300 people here, hundreds, thousands of stories and recollections. And you are all encouraged to share those in conversation and company following our return from the cemetery at the conclusion of the service. It's here where we'll share food, drink, and more time together as a community. It's now that we're going to turn to watch a time of reflection, pictures from Bill's life, and enjoy listening to two songs, Mississippi by Pussycat and I Have a Dream by Aero. And precious pictures and a chance to look and be in that space now. But of course, later we'll continue that reel. So if you want to come back with a drink and some friends and have a look at all the pictures from through the years, then you might. But just now, if you just turn your attention to this screen. Those fantails obviously not shy to carry the soundtrack while we had that frustrating little glitch. We will, again, at the conclusion of the service, have that slideshow on a reel for you to come and take a closer look. There's a poem by that New Zealand poet Sam Hunt, who's a bit of a tenacious character, and it's called Old Flames. It goes like this: the cabbage tree was, they said, dead. There was nothing they or anyone could do, now or any day. How sorry they were and sad, but the cabbage tree heard them. They never noticed it shaking its head, It shook it so hard, stars were said to have spread from where the cabbage tree stood. A blossoming new constellation across that night sky south. Someone said just yesterday, some fires you can't put out. As we near the end of our gathering here today, and before proceeding to the cemetery, if you are able, I would like to invite you please to stand. William Anthony O'Connor. Bill. An old head on young shoulders. Those were Morris's first words to me about his brother. Bill, you were so very important in our lives. Your family, your friends, and this community grieve your death. We mourn you. We let you go. We won't forget you. We'll miss you, but we'll see you again later on. Leaving this place isn't so much an ending as it is lots of beginnings for each of us here, continuations of connection with Bill and with one another. Bill, we are strengthened by your life. Now it's time to climb up, Bill, up onto the back of the Scania, a last ride over the hills, to be rested in those hills, below the wide skies, and then dressed with earth from your home. Bill, take it easy. Could the Guard of Honour, aviators, pilots, members of the Aero Club, please turn out to form up a Guard of Honour? And if the pallbearers, please, could come forward and come next to Bill.
Mm-hmm.